So in this race, we have S4, S5, S6, and S7. For new viewers joining in, the lower your classification, the more your disability affects your body. The higher the classification, the less it affects your body. This is the race I've been waiting for all night long. We have set a world record this morning. Tammy Cunnington, who will be racing in lane 6, she set a world record in the S4 category.
I've watched Tammy Cunnington swim individually twice at the trials. Now she's got swimmers alongside of her. Could be a little different for Tammy.
Absolutely. Maybe she got used to swimming on her own. It could serve as a distraction, or maybe it's going to be that extra push she needs to set another world record. Tammy Cunnington. So Tammy was in an accident at 6 years of age. Her accident gave her injury that affects 3 of her limbs, so she only gets propulsion with her right arm. She has strength in her shoulders and her abs, but getting nothing out of her lower body. So it's that right arm we need to look for. She's going to be propelling herself forward through that right arm. Neil.
Okay, so we're going to descend 1 to 4 on these. All right, trying to hold the water, having power on the water, being consistent. Biggest thing is I want you to try and keep your head the same as you try and go faster. Okay, so effort levels descending, keeping your head the same, I'll count your strokes for you. They do more when they get up to brush their teeth than we do in an entire day. I'm aware of what's happening when we go, all right? I'm a swim coach. I'm the assistant swim coach at Simon Fraser University, formerly the head coach of Red Deer Catalina Swimming.
No, I'm not tired.
Let's just go 25, let me see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. Just really think about getting that taller body position. Tammy's pretty unique. Able-bodied swimmers have all kinds of strengths and all kinds of balances, and Tammy takes everything that you know and flips it upside down. I had to relearn a lot of the skills that I was teaching in a different way to teach them back to someone who only has use of certain muscles and certain limbs. I had to learn an entire new sport. Paraswimming has a very different classification process and training focus and event focus. So for us, it was a really big learning curve. Tammy had to learn how to swim on her front. She'd never done that before, which is pretty cool. It was a little bit nerve-wracking at times. So I got you 24 strokes on that one. We learned together really well and really quickly so that she could make that team and get to Rio.
Since we were married in 2006, yeah, we've probably been to 30-some countries together. What I really saw in Rio was that, you know, without sport, Tammy wouldn't have the life that she has, the quality of life that she has. I've been through all of the ups and downs with her. I've been there every morning, every night. So when you're disabled, your physical fitness level is probably 3 times, well, all of our physical fitness levels are important, but when it comes to longevity and quality of life, physical fitness is 4 times more important for her than it is for an able-bodied person, simply because her system's already compromised. She's already has injuries and deals with things on a daily basis that most people don't even dream about. For Tammy's family, they see sport as that's what's keeping Tammy alive. And I do too, you know, and Tammy will train forever. That's just who she is. Whether or not she's doing national level sports, she'll, you know, when her and I retire, my life is only going to get busier, I can tell you that much. So.
I'm Tammy Cunnington. I'm a Canadian Paralympic swimmer, and I competed in the 2016 Paralympic Games in Rio. I don't remember it ever like this big moment of, oh, you're never gonna walk again. It wasn't like that for me, like it was for some people in chairs. It was just kind of a progression and a part of life. And once I was stable and at home, you know, my mom and dad kind of had this like, let's go attitude. Like, we're just gonna, you know, live and make the most of everything because you don't have other choices. I was 6. I turned 6 in December, and this was April 25th, 1982, I think it was the day. I was a figure skater when I was young, before I was injured, and my figure skating club was going to raise money for our club with a pancake breakfast at an air show. And my siblings and I were walking around the air show, just like there were planes to look at and different things to see. So we were walking around, and a plane tried to land, and it was flown by a less experienced pilot, and the wind caught the tail, and he crashed into another plane, and then crashed into me and ran over. My brother had his leg broke, and then I was hit from behind by the plane and seriously injured. It was, you know, before the time of stars and things like that. So I was taken to the Ponoka Hospital just for moments, not even taken out of the ambulance, and then sent on to Edmonton, where they also believed that they couldn't do much for me. And I was put into a jet and flown to Vancouver, where they had a much larger general hospital as well as children's hospital. And so in those first couple of weeks, I went through 17 surgeries, some of them lasting as long as, I think, 12 or 16 hours.
10, 3, go. 7.
I went through treatments in the hyperbaric chamber to fight the infection with the pure oxygen. Once I was stabilized, after that I spent most of the next year in hospitals having more surgeries, as well as more just rehab and rehabilitation to get me back into a position I could continue on with life. It's not foggy. I have some really clear memories of the day. Like, I remember somebody covering me with a bright orange down-filled jacket, those old 80s big puffy jackets. And I remember being in the air ambulance and telling the nurses that I was hungry, as I was always hungry, and even then when I was little. So I do have the odd, like the odd bright memory like that comes clear, and I have certain memories of being in the hospital. Like, one of the turning points of those first few weeks is I coughed up my respirator, because originally I wasn't breathing on my own. I had a respirator, and I remember choking and coughing, and all the alarms going off and nurses coming running. And then once I coughed it out, I was breathing on my own, and it was the first time I had breathed on my own. And I remember the nurses were all in tears, and at first I was like, I didn't really understand, and then I realized that they kind of knew that I was more stable and likely going to pull through. And I really remember that coughing, the coughing on that respirator that day. After, I don't know how many years I'd been out of the hospital, but 4 or 5 probably, when I went to the sports camp for 2 weeks, and we got to try all kinds of wheelchair sports. And it was the first time I met other kids that were in chairs, because living in a small town, there weren't other people, other kids like me. Well, I never said I'd hope to win a gold medal, but I'd been competing in triathlon. I think it was just after London that they were putting triathlon in. And so I said to my husband and to Pat here at the gym and my swim coach that was my goal. I was going to make the team for Rio in paratriathlon. And 2 years out, so my classification, they determined, didn't have enough people worldwide competing to make it a really good field of play in Rio, so they cut it. And then Mandy, my swim coach, was like, well, let's go to one swim meet. You're strong, you can learn more freestyle, more butterfly. I was right on the national standard for my classification and swam really well, so it just took off from there. I switched sports, and in 2015 I qualified for Paralympic Games as well as World Championships. And the national team coach at the time had said, you know, I was too new, I would never make the Pan Am team, let alone the World Championship team. And I had a fantastic weekend at trials and made both those teams. So then, you know, the goal from that point was definitely Rio. Really, all of that summer of competition was more in preparation for making the team for Rio than anything else.
Is the new world record holder, Tammy Cunnington.
I've really been working on improving my evening speed after a good morning swim. To do it like this today and break the record twice.
We've got some really great contenders, Benoit Huot, Aurélie Rivard. We had some Olympic records, some world records, some gold medals. We had quite a few podium finishes. It's a really interesting sport that Canada is starting to invest a lot of money into and a lot of focus into. It's exciting to see the development that it should have over the next few years.
There are a ton of para swimmers here and are ready to keep bumping it up the competition and taking it to the next level, so it's great to be able to showcase our sport.
She trains on her own. It's a very hard thing to do. She and I work together, just the two of us, quite a bit because our pool's small. This is our facility here. It's not very big, and we had a big team, and so we had to work around the schedule of the athletes so that Tammy could have some time and get some time in the water.
Propelling herself forward through that right arm.
She's in the water 5-6 times a week. She's in the gym 3 times a week. She's on her bike twice a week. She's working hard, and she does it primarily on her own with her own drive, with the support of her family and her friends and her coaches, obviously. But it's very hard to do what she accomplished: world records, Canadian records, making the Olympic team, as someone that has to focus and push herself without having people in the water with her all the time doing that.
What happened in Rio? Yeah.
First Olympics, it was only her second year on the senior team. It was a big learning curve. There was some health issues that she had.
Because I'm on the inside, I got the inside track on what she's feeling all the time. It was the roughest 2 weeks of my life.
Like if you look at a fish when it swims, it doesn't swim like this, right? It's you barely can tell that it's moving, but it's moving pretty efficiently, right? So that's kind of what you're
Because it didn't go well for her, personally, mentally.
In 5, 2, ready, go. Finishing the meet off of this a 7-day meet with a Canadian record and a personal best time was really exciting to see. It was very exciting. It was really cool to see someone that I'd helped get her there.
You know, I had had a great Paralympic trials in April. I had gone personal best all week, broke my S4 butterfly world record twice the day I raced it. broke 5 Canadian records, and I had a really great week, and I expected to carry that through into Rio.
Swimmers still coming to the wall to finish this women's 50 fly.
And we have set a new world record once again from Tammy Cunnington. She's lowered the mark again, getting it down to 52.90.
She went into trials when she made the team, and when she broke the world record for the S4 butterfly in the morning. Then that night, I watched the CBC footage back, and they were talking. You know, it was, I couldn't stop smiling.
She's still quite new into swimming, so if we're seeing world records falling at this point in time, we can only expect to see more great things from Rio.
I knew that medals would be still a challenge because in my best event I had to race the 5s, so I knew that a medal was a long shot, but I still expected to go and get personal bests on each of those events. 4 or 5 days after we got into the village, I started to feel a little bit like in my throat and a little bit of a cough.
They have a drink in Brazil called the caipirinha, and it's straight up chacasha and mint, and that was my poison, because that kept me sane, calmed my nerves down every night.
And even someone said to me, "Oh, are you getting sick?" I'm like, "No, I'm not getting sick." Complete denial, because for one, I rarely get sick, and for two, it was like not there, like it's not going to happen in Rio.
15, go, breathe and go.
She got sick. Her training hadn't gone as she'd hoped.
By the first race day, I was full on chest infection. I had very little energy. My lung capacity was so shrunken. I couldn't get a full breath when I was swimming. We had to cut my training time just to try and keep me from wearing out in training, so I'd have a little bit left for racing. My first race was, in my mind, was my most important. It was the 50 fly against the S5s, and I went 1 second off slower than my best time and didn't make finals.
Have you guys been doing any paddle stuff?
Yeah, we did quite a bit of paddling.
Cool, okay.
Mandy, her coach here in Red Deer, did an amazing job with her, because they both had to learn. Tammy basically went from not knowing how to swim butterfly and freestyle to 2 years later being at the Paralympics.
It was crushing. There's no other word for it. It was utter heartbreak.
What do you think?
And you can see it on the video at the end. Like, you can see through my goggles and my eyes well up, and it was just devastating to spend all that time and energy and a lifetime of looking for it and not have the lungs the day that you need it.
People try their whole lives to get to the Olympics and then can't do it. And yes, Tammy's been in sport her whole life. That has been her goal her whole life, is to make it to the Paralympics. When we kind of realized that there might be a possibility to make the Paralympics, you've never seen focus and drive like that. It was incredible.
And then I raced IM and then breaststroke. The IM is the 150-meter race when I typically race just 50, so I knew that without the lungs it was going to be harder. And yeah, that one was just pain the whole way through, like just, everything I had just to get through it, and I was quite a bit off my best time. That one was a harder competition. I wasn't expecting to make a final in it. By the day I swam breaststroke, I was beyond sick. I was dizzy and lightheaded, and the team doctor and team coaches talked to me about pulling out and not racing, and I was like, yeah, you can get me off the bottom of the pool before you can keep me from getting in. I don't care if I'm sick, I'm getting off the block.
It was intense. The way national level sport works is okay, you're coach and you got you this far, but now we rip you out of that environment, and now you're our athlete and our coaches and our training methods. And I think even more so than able-bodied athletes, para-athletes are so individualized, you can't just force a system onto them. And I think that had a big part to play in it. She fought the system, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And maybe she would have just given in completely, but that's not who she is.
Elbow back. Elbow back. Go 5, 3, 2.
Fortunately, by my last race, I had a couple of days in between, and I did go up personal best time on the 50 free, but it was still same, not enough to make final. Nowhere near the time that I was anticipating going, or the goal time that I had put for myself after the way things went at trials. It was at least a positive end, but again, it was so far off and really, really hard. For one, because of my competitive nature, and my family was there and the sacrifices I had made, and you know, it was definitely, yeah, one of the most challenging things I've been through. And even if it had gone really well, I'm not sure that I would have been ready to retire. For now, I'm just taking it a year at a time. In July, I'll look at different factors and decide from there if I'm going to go next year. By next season, I'll be making a full decision whether I'm full on towards Tokyo or not. At the moment, I'm just trying to do some, tell my story about sport and how I got to where I got. These younger age competitions are such an important part of developing future Olympians and Paralympians. And the Canada Games has both able-bodied athletes and para-athletes, which is ideally what almost every para-athlete would want the future of the Paralympics to be. Yeah, I'm working with the Games just to do a little bit of help around looking at accommodation for the para-athletes and giving my view of making sure it will be accessible enough for them, and just kind of being a bit of an ambassador for the Games and talking about it and going to events for them and things like that.